Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show.
You meet someone online and there's this instant connection. It's amazing how much the two of you just seem to click. They live somewhere far away and there's some plausible reason they can't travel to meet you. They tell you they're in love with you and you feel optimistic for the first time in a long time. They have a successful career, yet somehow they need money from you to solve a short-term problem, always with the promise of paying you back. Time goes on and they need more money more urgently. You've started to see the cracks and begin to wonder whether they've been lying this whole time. All of a sudden it hits you. You've been scammed. Fool Me Twice is the story of my mother, Jules Hannaford, a woman who was drawn into the dangerous world of sweetheart scams. After a trip overseas to meet a stranger, a dangerous altercation in a Manchester hotel room, and thousands of pounds lost for good, she's here to tell her story. Fool Me Twice, a true crime podcast, is available on Apple Podcasts, Ozcast Network, and anywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Today I'm here with Nick Daryanani. Hi Nick, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a real pleasure. I'm a huge fan of your show, and the fact that I'm on the show is a huge privilege.
It's really exciting to have you on Hong Kong Confidential, and
Thank you.
I love the fact that you reached out to me on Instagram, and now here we are recording on my roof in Lamma Island. So it's very exciting.
You like the fact that I've come with my Anna Wintour style?
Yes, I nearly mistook you for her and introduced you incorrectly.
Okay. I'm going to take them off.
For the listeners out there, Nick was wearing glasses. Now he's taking them off, his sunglasses.
There's literally nothing else similar about me and Anna Wintour but the glasses.
And
the great sense of fashion. Two things, Jules, two things.
Now I recognize you, Nick. Now I recognize you. Thanks for clearing that up. I was a bit confused, but it's all good. Nick, tell me a bit about your story. Where are you from? Where did you go to school? How do you find yourself in Hong Kong?
Sure. Well, I guess my granddad moved here 40, 50 plus years ago. And then my dad moved down when he was sort of in his late teens. They set up a life here. I was born here in Hong Kong. I went to KG5. And I guess I can't say resided here ever since because I don't live here full time at the moment. I live between London and Hong Kong. But basically, in a nutshell, that's sort of how I got here. Birthright. I love this city. And it's my home in every way, shape, and form, I think.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that I don't speak very good Cantonese.
Nor do I after 20 years of being here. I can speak well in a taxi. That's about it.
Me too.
How did you find yourself working in film and comedy?
It was always a dream to work in film and television. And it's funny because just a couple of days ago, actually, my uncle pulled up an old tape. And I was a kid and I was doing these little magic shows. And I'd get everyone in my family to sit around. And I'd be like, I'm Nick the magician. And I've just always sort of, I guess, loved the idea, I guess, of being on screen and being really, really passionate about entertaining people. I think that's kind of what I feel like I'm here for.
And did it start when you were really young? And then did you do drama and film at school?
Absolutely. Drama was the only subject I loved. And till now, I think my favorite teacher of all time was my drama teachers at school. Like I loved them all. And I still keep in touch with them, actually. I still see my drama teacher in London all the time. She's moved there. So whenever I go back, I always see her.
How fab. I know your drama teacher, actually.
I'm sure you do.
Because I used to teach drama as well. So I know all your drama teachers and they're great teachers. But isn't it interesting how individual adults, when we're children, can have such a significant impact on our lives and almost shape the way that we evolve as adults.
I actually think that they changed my life completely because I definitely wasn't the best student. I wasn't really interested in a lot of things. And the only thing I ever wanted to do was be an actor or be on television. That was it. That was my natural talent. And I felt kind of stuck sort of with math and English and all the rest. I just kind of, it's not that I did badly. I just didn't enjoy it the way that I enjoyed drama. I remember that I talk a lot about Miss Lyles. She's Mrs. Young now, but my high school drama teacher. And she sat me down this one day and she was like, you have no idea what you can achieve. And if you just applied yourself, you could change your entire life. Those words have always kind of sat with me. And I've always kind of believed I can achieve whatever because she said that to me back then. I was like, oh, she wouldn't just say it to everyone, right? I hope not, Miss Lyles. I hope not. Yeah.
Lyles.
But I think definitely like my passion for drama and the fact that I loved it so much transformed my entire life because I then went, look, this is the only thing I know how to do. This is the only thing I love doing. And that's how the producing and acting and presenting journey began for me, essentially.
That's interesting because as adults, we really have to understand the impact of our conversations with young people and how that can shape or change their lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
150%.
5 minutes can change a kid's life, can't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think people underestimate that. And people underestimate as well how much television and how much the people that you watch on television can change your lives as well. And I think that's why I created Off the Cuff, which I'm so glad you're going to be on my show as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on your show. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, not at all. I mean, you have one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard. So I'm super excited to sort of introduce your story to my audience and for us to learn so much more about your journey.
I'm really looking forward to sharing it. And I think that I just hope that it helps other people not to get caught in the trap that I was when it comes to online dating romance scams. So it'll be great to come on your show and talk about what I've been through. Sorry for the background noise. There's a few VVs running around Llama Island.
Yeah, we are on the roof. I thought I'd say that for all the listeners. We are on this amazing rooftop, and I'll describe it to them as well. There's birds chirping, there's greenery. I mean, it's hard to believe we're in Hong Kong being on your rooftop, Jules.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? It's really lovely. It's the first time I've done a podcast outside as well. So that's quite exciting. For the listeners out there, you might hear a few VVs, which are the village vehicles running by, or dogs barking, but brings an extra added layer to the podcast.
It feels like we're in the Caribbean. It's the island life, baby. The island life.
We could be anywhere. So tell me a bit more about Off the Cuff.
Sure. It was, I think, about 3.5 years ago. It's quite funny, actually. It sat in the office and thinking about what we can do to really make a difference. My company, 24 Frames, we do loads of amazing branded productions, work with lots of incredible clients. But we wanted to sort of step out beyond that and create our own content. And that's what I've always been passionate about, creating things that I'm personally very, very interested in. And I love talk shows. I'm a huge fan of Corden and Kimmel and Fallon. I watch everyone. Trevor Noah. Love you, Trevor. Not in like that way, but he's a cool guy.
Trevor is so cool.
Trevor's amazing.
I love Trevor. Yeah.
We all love you, Trevor. I hope you're listening to this.
You've read his book?
I love
his book. Is fantastic.
Absolutely love it.
It's so great hearing his story in South Africa.
It's wow. I mean, if you guys haven't read Born a Crime, I'm going to promote it right here. Trevor, I'm doing this for you, man.
Yeah.
Born a Crime. Read it now. Sorry, Jules.
Oh, great.
Should be promoting your book. And her book's pretty damn amazing too.
Fool me twice. Get it soon.
Fool me twice. Forget about Trevor.
Trevor? Who's Trevor? Yeah, brilliant.
I think for me, it was all about the fact that I felt underrepresented in Asia. I feel like there aren't enough brown hosts. And I don't know why that is, because there's so many incredible people that deserve recognition that I feel like don't get it, or there's no sort of talk show sort of platform. So I decided I was going to create Off the Cuff. It was going to be all about incredible personalities in Asia and sort of giving them that platform so they could tell us their stories. I mean, these are people who've achieved great things. I mean, we're talking about Dom Lau, the Ryan Seacrest of Asia. We're talking about Debbie Wong, amazing Food Network host, Eddie McDougall, Netflix wine TV personality, Helena Chan from Asia's Next Top Model, Alan Gulani, one of Asia's biggest and most amazing MMA fighters. Every single one of these people has done something mind-blowingly amazing. And I just wanted to sort of put them in the spotlight and say, hey guys, especially if you're young and impressionable, 13, 14, 15, and you go, I can't see enough representation. Well, here's the representation. And to me, that's what Off the Cuff's all about.
Hong Kong is just so full of diverse, interesting characters, isn't it? There's a wealth of information and activists and people making a difference. And it's great to tap into that and share it with the rest of the world. It's such a vast city of talent.
It is, and it's such a melting pot. You know, I think you've got so many people from so many different walks of life that sort of meet in Hong Kong and great things happen. I mean, whenever I'm here, I always feel like I'm on the verge of something incredible. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Hong Kong as a city. You're always buzzing. You're going at 500 miles an hour all the time. No one ever sleeps. And it's a struggle sometimes, but most of the time it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. Talk to me a little bit more about diversity in the film and TV industry. It's something that's starting to grow. Like we're seeing more LGBTQI characters. We're seeing TV shows and characters with people from different cultures. But why is it important and why isn't it developing faster than it is?
When you walk out your door and into the real world, it's very, very rare that you'll just see one kind of human being, right? You're not just going to see the beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed hunk or the beauty queen.
Yeah, running down the beach with the Baywatch red thing.
That's not real life, right? And these are stereotypes that have been perpetuated by every film industry in the world, right? It's not just Hollywood. We can't just blame Hollywood. Every film industry in the world is sort of centered around looks and a certain type of physique or a certain type of person. And I think, to me, that's not real. That's not authentic. And we live in a world today where it's all about authenticity. It's all about being real. You've got people following people on Instagram that they feel like, I mean, again, this is a whole other debate about whether they're authentic or not. Everyone is able to sort of use social to tell their personal story today. And I feel like, okay, if we're able to sort of really resonate with characters from all over the world and influencers from all over the world, why can't we have these people in movies? Why can't we have equal representation where people get to learn about different cultures, they get to study them, they get to be interested in really unique, interesting stories? Take me, for instance, born and brought up in Hong Kong, of Indian ethnicity, living between the UK and Hong Kong. How many characters with a diverse background like that do you have in a movie? It's just much easier to say, here's a girl from Tennessee. She's blonde and beautiful. And here we go. This is her story. It's way easier to do that than to actually sit there and paint a picture that is truthful and real and complex, because we're not 2D human beings. We're so multidimensional with culture and character and backgrounds. And I think that isn't reflected in television the way it should be. And that's what I stand for. That's my mission in life, to bring diversity to screen. That's why I started a production company. That's why I created Off the Cuff. And everything that I do sort of falls within that brand for me. It's all about that mission.
I think that's brilliant. And as an audience member, we need to find people on the television and on the big screen that we can identify with, because it helps people find their place in the world. It helps people feel good about who they are. And I think that that's why diversity is so important. Why isn't it advancing as quickly as it should be? We're in 2021.
I think it's all about formulas. I think these are tried and tested formulas when it comes to films. This works, right? At the end of the day, every industry in the world, and I'm not knocking the industry for this, is about making money. And I think it's not until we start looking at the world in a different way and pushing the powers that be to do things authentically that they will. Because at the end of the day, it's about making money. And if a Tom Cruise film is going to make you a ton of money, they're going to go with Tom Cruise. They're not going to go with Nick D. They should. They should.
Can you get on it?
At the end of the day, it's all about, it's a business. How much can they make? How much can your brand name make? It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And as we get more and more diverse, as the world starts to understand diversity and see in a different way, you follow influencers from all over the world and you're interested in different types of people, the more we're going to see this industry evolve. And we are, because there is no other way to go. Stories have to be authentic, and people live all over the world. Brown people live in China, and Chinese people live in America, and just people from everywhere live everywhere. It's just the world. Get used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Is there anybody that you really admire that is someone that sort of inspires you along this path of promoting diversity?
There are a lot of people that Trevor's huge.
Yeah, Trevor's great, isn't he? Yeah.
Trevor's amazing when it comes to diversity. And I think with his background, read the book, guys, with his background, where he came from, the fact that he came from nothing, the fact that he had such a turbulent childhood.
With a single mum.
With a single mum. And the fact that he was able to move to America and fulfill his dream is just incredible. It's incredible. And I think people look at him, I do too. I mean, it's not just people, we have this tendency to look at people like Trevor and say, he's the one in a billion people that did it, sure. But everyone can make their own impact in their own way. And I think that's what people sort of fail to understand, is that anything's possible. Anything in the world is possible. You've just got to believe.
And it's never too late to learn, or it's never too late to change. I didn't write my book or start my podcast until I was in my 50s.
And look at you now.
I know. Right? I've aged backwards.
Well, I like to call you the podcast queen of Hong Kong.
Oh, thank you so much.
Because, I mean, what you create, genuinely, and I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart, it is incredible. I love your stories. I love your style of storytelling. And I can just see this grow and grow and grow. And I'm super excited to be on your podcast.
Oh, it's great to have you here. I think one of the things that I didn't realize when I started the podcast was how inspired I'd be by the people that I was talking to. I kind of was like, oh, I'm going to get the message out and change the world, and I'm going to promote diversity and inclusion and all of these values out to my audience. But I didn't realize how much I'd get out of it. It's so inspirational. It's incredible.
There's a part of everyone, I think, that has this sort of creative spark in us. And I think it isn't until you have the guts to go out there and pursue that spark that you feel truly enlightened. And I'm going to use that word, enlightened. Genuinely, I think enlightenment is far more complex than that, sure.
No, but it's fulfillment,
it's about fulfillment.
It's fulfillment.
Yeah, I mean, my version, the Nick D version of enlightenment is just follow that spark.
Yeah, absolutely. And why do you think creativity is important in everybody's lives?
I think because it's that sort of release. You know, I think there's so much, you're just constantly thinking, aren't you? You think about this, you're thinking about that. And creativity just gives you the chance to take a massive step back and breathe and look at the world in a different way. I think that's so important and it's so vital for everyone. I think even if you're a banker at Morgan Stanley, I think it's important that you go out on the weekend and do something creative and something fun and interesting.
Nick, tell me why you think it's important that people have creativity in their lives.
I think creativity is letting your mind go wild. And I think as kids, right, we've got this limitless imagination. I think as adults, we suppress that. No matter what we do, we suppress it. We sort of say, okay, you know what? That's a stupid idea, or that's not going to work. And I think being creative helps you embrace who you really are. So taking that step back and going, yeah, okay, I get it. This canvas has 2 dots on it, but it looks cool to me. Great. That's creativity, right? Or this is a really, really weird story, but I like it. It works for me. That's creativity. So I think just taking that step back and just being you.
I think it's also good for well-being, isn't it? It's good for the soul. It's really good for just centering yourself, understanding who you are, and really finding your passion. And I think it's really important to have that. Otherwise, life can be a bit bland.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there's a stigma around finding your passion nowadays, right? I think I've read a lot of books on this, and a lot of people sort of go through life going, what's my passion?
So how did you come to form your company, 24 Frames?
I started sort of chasing the television dream while I was in England after I graduated. And I had the amazing fortune of working for Paul Jackson, who's executive producer of The Young Ones, Red Dwarf, Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay. Just this incredible guy, and really looked up to him. He was just so full of wisdom. Like, I just remember thinking, like, everything he said, I just wanted to write down. It's one of those people. He'd been in the television industry for decades and decades and decades. We still keep in touch. He's still my mentor in England, and started there. And then I sort of ended up moving back to Hong Kong because I couldn't, film's a tough industry in the sense that it's impossible to get a visa. And they have millions of people that want to do it. So there's a huge demand. I ended up moving back to Hong Kong and thinking, okay, well, that's kind of it. That's the end of the dream. I mean, I went from sort of having these incredible people like Russell Brand walking in and out of my office to moving back to Hong Kong. And that was a really difficult period for me. I think kind of feeling like I was at the epicenter and I was just there. I worked for a couple of production companies and I kind of sussed it out. And to be honest, I wasn't very impressed. I was looking for this sort of outlet and to be creative. And I felt like the places I was working were very, very stale. I said, okay, well, after a couple of years gaining the experience, I took a step back and I said, I'm going to start my own thing. And that's exactly what I did. I met Bradley who you know very, very well.
Yeah,
my
I
business
taught
partner.
Bradley. Yeah,
You
went
taught
to my
Bradley. It's
school.
a very, it's a small world.
It
It's scary.
is. I know.
What a small world Hong
6
Kong.
degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. We don't need Kevin
Absolutely.
Bacon, Bradley.
I met Brad while I was sort of trying to create a TV show pilot, and he came and he sort of was the DOP for it, and we got on really well and started talking, and he went, hey, listen, let's do this together. And so we did. And probably like a week after I quit, I was in the market for an office. We rented an office, and the rest is history. 24 Frames was born. And today, here we are. We have our branded division that creates content for some of the most amazing brands. We're very, very lucky to work with the brands that we do. And on the other side, we're creating sort of a creative production house, a creative division of our production house that does TV shows and looks at doing short films, feature films, that sort of thing. That's still very much a work in progress. We have some exciting things coming up in hopefully 2021, depends on when we can travel. Can't really say much at the moment, but we've got some really exciting things lined up and we're sort of seeing how it goes. But for me, 24 is all about creativity.
Oh, brilliant. I wish you the best of luck. How has COVID impacted your business?
The first couple of months were certainly quite shocked. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we're a very, very busy company. We're very fortunate to be busy. When the restrictions came in and they went, you can't film and crews aren't allowed. And we just went, what do we do? That's our livelihood. Luckily, because we're based across the world, so our head office is in Hong Kong, operations in London, Amsterdam, and Singapore, we gave ourselves a pretty good chance of sort of getting out of that in the sense that Hong Kong did really well. And the way that Hong Kong has handled COVID is admirable in many ways. Business sort of snapped back very quickly. It was down for a little bit. And before we knew it, things were busy again. And we found that we were doing a lot more animation productions than we were doing actual filming, which was great. And things just sort of started to work themselves again.
That's so cool. It's funny how businesses have to adapt and shift with COVID, even for us as teachers, teaching online and doing online curriculum. Everybody has to adapt and move with it. And it sounds like you've done that by doing animation and things like that.
Absolutely. There was a point at which we sat down and we racked our brains.
How can we make this work?
How can we make this work? It's odd for me to not fly back and forth from Hong Kong. I was stuck in London pretty much the entire year until November of 2020. And that was odd because I'm very, very close to my team. I'm very close to the company. And I like to be involved. I like to go to meetings. I love what I do. So I'm constantly flying in and out between London, Hong Kong, Singapore, Amsterdam. I'm constantly all over the place. So I think the hardest thing was just taking a step back and going, I need to manage this remotely. I have to have my calls with the team remotely. And that was difficult. That was very, very difficult. I'm super hands-on. That was something that really affected me, impacted me for a little while. And then I realized, hey, look, it's working. And gave me a whole new level of respect for my team as well. Because I mean, these guys, they killed it. They did a great job that in 2020. They sort of just ran the company really, really well. And I'm super proud of them. And looking at it on the other end now, I feel like I can continue to grow the way I want to grow because of the fact that I've got this incredible team.
And what do you love most about what you do?
I think it's got to be the people. I'm in a really unique position where I travel around the world, meet loads of interesting people, constantly working with clients, constantly coming up with ideas. It's got to be a combination between people and imagination. Just really sitting down and going through the process of coming up with really interesting, fun projects and videos and TV shows and things like that. That's got to be the thing I love the most, for sure.
Yeah, I feel a little bit jealous. Though I do love my job as a teacher. But I think deep down, what you're doing is kind of what I wanted to do. I started in a degree in communications, majoring in film and media.
Well, hey, 24 Frames has got its doors open for you, Jules. So you let me know.
Keep me a job. I've only got 5 years left at my school. And then, give me a job.
Absolutely. I would love to.
Yeah.
You could head up the podcast division.
Yeah, I could. There you go. See, we've got plans. We've got a few plans. What do you find the biggest challenge in what you do?
I think getting past other people's opinions. I think, like I said, I feel like the world sometimes puts things in boxes. In terms of making content in Asia, I feel like in general, the brands that you come across sometimes are quite limited in what they are able to do because of the fact that they've got massive boards of directors that want to sort of say, no, look, we're going to take the safer option out. I think, especially in Asia, I think that's something that I can see changing already. And I imagine it's going to change a lot more, but changing opinions. I think that's the toughest part. and the biggest challenge, because we have some great ideas and really interesting things that we want to do. But at the end of the day, it comes down to getting people on board.
Do you think it's the conservative culture in Asia?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't blame people, because at the end of the day, look, if you create some content and it works, you go, okay, it works, I'm going to create the same thing again.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Correct.
Yeah.
But what people aren't realizing is by reinventing the wheel from time to time, you're going to re-engage and re-energize your viewership and your audience. You're going to get them even more excited in what you do, and you're going to connect with new members from your audience. So you're not going to lose your audience necessarily. But in fact, you have loads to gain. And I think that's really what I feel like, if I could sit here and say anything to big brands across Asia, I'd say be bold and don't be afraid to stand out, because comedy or doing something ridiculous or funny or creating a short film rather than creating a video where your CEO talks to your audience is way more engaging, way more interesting, and more people are going to respect you and come on board, buy your product because they're loving what you're doing in the content space.
And hopefully that will shift and change because of the pandemic. People have been having to think outside the box. Now people are maybe starting to get into this culture of thinking differently, taking more risks, trying new things, because we've been forced to do that. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. For example, we have a script for a short film that we're creating solely on Zoom. Back in the day, the idea of not having a nice camera and a crew and lighting and all of that would have thrown me off immediately. I'd be like, forget it. But I shot some segments for Off the Cuff called Beyond the Balcony. And it was sort of what I did whilst I was in lockdown. And I sort of reported on the happenings.
What a cool concept. I love it.
It was just literally, I was super frustrated because I was like, I'm sat here. I'm the kind of person that moves around a lot and does a lot of stuff. I'm always in meetings. My schedule's packed. And there I am. Sure, I'm still busy. I still have stuff to do. But sitting at home on a table, on the dining table, and having calls wasn't my idea of being able to really be myself. So I went, okay, what do I do? And I sort of threw this at a couple of friends. I constantly bring my wife into all these discussions. I'm like, babe, what do you think? What do you think of this? What should I do this? So we came up with this idea called Beyond the Balcony, which basically I felt like there was a lot of sadness and a lot of sort of fear around COVID. And I felt if I can just create something to make people feel happy and feel like everything's going to be okay. I've been very lucky to sort of be able to do what I do. I wanted to give back. And I wanted to say, okay, look, what I can do is try and put a smile on your face. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. And so we came up with these little segments where I was just basically talking about really funny things that were happening around the world. So there was the famous Hong Kong pole licker, right? The guy who they captured on video putting his hand in his mouth and licking the pole. So I did a little segment on him. There was this amazing segment that I did about London where this lady sort of looking out of her window sees an entire family dressed as a hedge crawling across the road. Things like that, creeping out of lockdown, sort of so that they don't get caught and whatnot. Those things were incredible and inspirational at the same time. So I wanted to put something together that I just felt made people happy.
Yeah, entertain them. While you were saying that, I was thinking all those random people that come out in typhoons and try and get on camera.
Absolutely.
They're nearly getting killed by flying things. And
that's
it's
exactly
hilarious.
what it was like.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a guy that dressed as a dinosaur and walked down the road. Someone took that, put it on YouTube and put the Jurassic Park soundtrack to it.
Brilliant.
And so things like that, I was just like, this is gold.
That entertains, doesn't it? And makes people laugh and see the lighter side, because we can get bogged down in the heaviness of what's going on at the moment.
Absolutely. And if it didn't entertain anyone else, it entertained me.
You, yeah.
I was
quarantine.
Yeah, I was sat there, I called up Andreas. I was like, Brad, Andreas, let's find some funny things that have been going on. And they pulled out random stories and were writing scripts for things. And it just kept us busy, kept our minds moving, and kept us sort of having a good time.
Would that be your advice for people who are in quarantine, anyone who's got to go through it? Because it's a long time to spend on your own.
I don't know about anyone else, but I'm certainly going back to quarantine next week. I think my advice to myself would be to continue to have a good time. I think the most difficult part is we rarely ever hit the pause button in life, right? We just don't get a chance to do it. For me, it's ever since I was in school, university, you get a job, you sort of work your way up, and you're constantly just one goal after another, after another, after another. This was the pause button. I found myself, my normal routine is I sleep for about 3 to 4 hours.
Oh my gosh, how do you manage?
well, I just don't sleep very well and there's better things to do. I always say I'll sleep when I'm dead, right?
Oh my God.
I
couldn't cope. I'd be crying everywhere. I wouldn't be able to manage.
I was sleeping 8 hours. I felt like a kid who had summer holidays through some of it, obviously.
So it's a time to reset.
Absolutely. And that's what I really used it for, a time to reset, a time to connect. The amount of random phone calls that people got from me at that point in time where I was like, hey, I'm bored. And I don't remember the last time I've had the
I know I haven't seen you since grade 2, but can we chat?
I'm so bored. Let's chat. I'm desperate. Please.
It's 3 a.m. in the morning. Leave me alone. Would you call yourself a workaholic?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
And does this not impact your well-being?
My wife would probably say it does, yeah.
Do you get anxious or stressed?
Yes, I do. I think anyone that absolutely loves what they do and has an aim and a goal in life will get anxious, will get stressed. It does affect my well-being, but I'll sleep when I'm dead. That's the way I look at it.
I can't get enough sleep.
I feel like there's so much to do in life. It's so vast.
When you do reset or when you do take time for yourself in those rare moments, what do you do for self-care?
Do you know what? That's a really interesting question. It's a question I probably have to ask myself. What do I do?
Drink?
Yes. I mean, I love going out. I love going out with friends. I love having a good meal. I mean, anyone that knows me or follows me on Instagram knows because I'm always posting about food.
Yes.
Always. But this year it's been a little different. I've picked up a couple of new hobbies. I've been spending a lot of time in the gym. I've really sort of developed this routine. And what I'd do pretty much every day is I'd wake up at around 4 a.m. London time. So I can sort of sync up with Hong Kong, 4 to 5, depending on how busy things were. And then I'd work across the day till about 6 p.m. London time. And then I'd go to the gym, come back, and I'd have what I call a podcast bath. It would annoy the crap out of my wife.
You'd be 4 hours in the bath.
Absolutely what I do. And that's how I discovered you, Jules. That's how I reached out because I
discovered me in the bath.
Now that you say it, Jules,
that sounds a bit weird.
Maybe we can cut this bit out. But
no, we're leaving it in, Nick. Too bad. No, that's really cool though, because I would listen to podcasts to relax. And I listen every single day. I'm addicted.
So much.
I love it.
Me too. And for me, I am 24/7 consuming content. And the problem with television sometimes is my eyes get exhausted because I'm working on the computer. I'm basically,
getting old.
Just glued to the computer. Absolutely getting old. Yeah, I am getting old. I'm glued.
He's like about 30, everyone.
Glued to the screen. My eyes are exhausted. And I just went, okay, like how do I take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather from this? And I discovered podcasts and that would be it. And my wife would literally walk in. It's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You've been sat here 3 hours. Yeah. What are you doing?
Our marriage is collapsing because of podcasts. Could be a new.
Babe, please, one last episode. Just one more. Oh, I got her into it as well.
Oh, that's great.
Now we sort of listen to loads. Actually, she got me into it. That's the wrong way around. She got me into it and then it's sort of stuck. And then I just started exploring loads of shows and things. And then, yeah, that's definitely how I stumbled across it.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm honored that you're listening to Hong Kong Confidential and even more honored that you're doing it in the bath. That's awesome.
Hey.
You mentioned that you're a foodie. When I was doing research, I noticed that. And is that something that you do just for eating out or do you love to cook? Do you love food from different cultures? Tell me a bit about your food obsession.
I love to cook. I love all of the above. All of the above. I love eating extravagant, amazing meals. I love trying new restaurants. I love being on the street side and eating street food.
We've gotten some incredible street food in Hong Kong.
Absolutely.
It's so much fun too.
Absolutely. And every aspect of food is something I enjoy. There isn't an aspect I don't enjoy.
Have you heard of a company called Humid with a Chance of Fish Balls?
Virginia was on the show.
Ah, brilliant. Yeah.
Actually did a tour with them.
How
Episode 3, season 1 with Simon Yin, where it was a fake tour led by me and Simon was in my ear sort of telling me
you what to say. Oh,
yeah,
right.
We did. They're amazing though. Virginia's amazing.
Yeah. How cool.
She's great at what she does.
I thought that would be something that you would love if you didn't know about it.
No, I think it's just Hong Kong's so diverse and coming back to Hong Kong, it's just such a great place to be able to explore loads of amazing cuisines and things like that. And London as well. Phenomenal range of restaurants there as well.
Yeah, so. I am a fantastic eater. I love it. I love food as well. Nick, I was wondering if you would tell me if there's anything that you're afraid of or do you have any fears?
It would be a complete lie if I said don't have any fears, right? I think everyone has fears. I think I wouldn't say a fear of failure, but I'd say more a fear of time. Sounds weird, but I'm not worried about failing. I know I'll get there eventually. I'll get wherever I need to get, right? I believe in destiny, and I believe that there's certain things that are meant for me. And I see every year those things sort of developing in front of me. But I constantly have this dilemma where I feel like I'm running out of time. Nothing's ever done sparingly with time. I feel like I'm constantly on the clock, going from here to here, this meeting to that meeting, rushing the pre-production for this show, because I'm just constantly caught up in the idea that I want to live this amazingly crazy life where I want to do loads of interesting things. I'm super ambitious. And so I think it's a fear of time slipping by.
I love that. That's so interesting. You're an inspiration as well. You really are. I think that's lovely. Do you see yourself as a third culture kid?
Yes, absolutely.
I wonder whether that means that you don't really feel you fit in here or in London or in India.
I fit in nowhere.
Or do you fit in everywhere?
Both, I think.
Right.
Both. I think the way that we're brought up in Hong Kong as a third culture kid, you're not taught to see race as something that exists, right? It's there, but it's never paid any attention to. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the way that I was brought up and the way that international schools over here sort of teach you to be. You don't grow up making fun of different people's ethnicities. You don't grow up making fun of other people's cultures. You're taught to respect that. And it wasn't really until I stepped out into the world that I realized racism exists and is a big deal, because school was this amazing bubble of, KG5 is super diverse. And I think the way that sort of the system was growing up in Hong Kong, I think so many different people around you, and you feel like that's what the world will be like until you step out into the world and you go, okay, well, sure, there's some aspects of the world that encapsulate those amazing ideals, but there's a whole other side to the world that doesn't. And I think that's really where that comes into play. I think it's a great environment, and it was a great environment growing up. And I think, coming back to your question, belonging nowhere and belonging everywhere, I sort of feel a bit like a citizen of the world. And lots of people don't understand it when I say it. But the truth is, having an Indian background, then growing up in Hong Kong, and then sort of living in London and moving back and forth between, it's been really interesting because there's multiple cities that I can call home. And on top of that, I think gives you this unique ability to assimilate with anybody and understand anyone, and also understand that there are different ways of life in different places and different ways of doing things. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the world. And that's the beautiful thing about diversity. You can go anywhere in the world and just enjoy yourself and learn how they do things.
And it makes you a global citizen, doesn't
Absolutely.
it? Which is really a cool thing to be. And it's the way of the future for many of us.
Absolutely.
Even though travel is becoming more difficult at the moment, hopefully things will open up again.
I mean, the way I see it is nothing lasts forever. Good things don't last forever. Bad things don't last forever. And COVID will not last forever.
It will not.
It won't. So we will go back to life as it was. I will still be flying around 2-3 times a month, hopefully more. I think that's definitely a positive outlook on our current world situation.
If you met somebody who'd never been to Hong Kong, how would you describe it? What are the best things about Hong Kong?
I think the most amazing thing about Hong Kong is the fact that you have a city that has everything, right? You've got countryside, you've got trails, you've got hikes, you've got reservoirs. I was going to say lakes. You don't really have a lake.
Probably is a lake somewhere.
I'm sure. You've got a beautiful ocean. You've got beaches. You've got skyscrapers. You've got some of the best restaurants in the world. You've got some of the best nightclubs in the world. What don't you have? So it's the city that has everything.
It's the city that never sleeps.
That also. The city that never sleeps.
Yeah. It's great. Nick, what's your superpower?
People say I'm a smooth operator.
I can see that. I can see that.
Definitely. I'd say, well, I can chat for hours. I love understanding people. I love talking, and I love the sound of my own voice a lot. So this is perfect.
You've actually got a lovely voice.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Do you have any regrets in life? Or is there anything you would have done differently?
Do you know what? I don't.
That's great.
I don't have regrets. I don't. And I've thought a lot about this. I've been asked this question a lot, and I've pondered on it. I genuinely feel like I am doing my best to live life to the fullest. I try and address minor regrets as quick as possible. For example, I haven't seen said friend in ages, and I absolutely love them and I need to spend time with them, or I'm not spending enough time with my parents. I'll do my best to try and address those regrets as I feel they pop up. And so I feel, if I look back on my life now, feel like it was just the way it was meant to be.
So, Nick, what advice would you have for anybody who wants to have a career in the creative arts, particularly in film and TV and acting?
Follow your gut. I think you know deep down inside if it's the career for you. I really believe in your gut feeling. I really believe that you know deep down how things are going to pan out. Follow your gut and definitely dream big, because I think people get caught up in thinking that this is impossible and that is impossible. But the truth is, the people that have made it possible were the exact people who didn't think like that. And that's why they got where they got, right? I think it's natural in life to get knocked down. It's natural in life to feel like, just when is it going to happen? Because I feel like that every day. There's always something that I'm chasing that's just a little bit further than I need it to be, right? But I think it's about the journey, not the destination. I think no matter what, the destination for all of us, I hate to say and be morbid, but the destination's the same, right? We've all got to go someday. So make sure that before that you lead a life that you're proud of, you're happy with.
What are your goals for the future, for yourself and for your business?
There's a lot of goals. There's a lot of new exciting ventures popping up. There's a lot of really exciting things happening with 24 Frames. We want to continue to expand. We want to continue to sort of make ourselves known around Asia. I want to sort of really continue to create content that people are going to love. I think it's simple. I think people make things very complicated. I just want to create shows, content, web series, whatever, that people enjoy and love because they can resonate with the message.
Awesome. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
How can my listeners find you if they'd like to see Off the Cuff or learn more about your company or find you on LinkedIn?
Sure. So they can follow me on Instagram at Nick Daryanani, or they can follow at Off the Cuff Asia on Facebook. And we are primarily a Facebook show. Everything goes out on Facebook. Please follow us. Please watch the show. It would mean a lot to me and to Jules.
And me.
And to Jules, because she'll be on the show. Don't just do it for me. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jules. This has been such an honor to be on your show. And
thank you, Nick, so much for coming on the show. It's great to have you here. It's been a great experience recording outdoors with all the stuff going on around us. And I really appreciate you getting in touch with me and reaching out. It's been fab to hear your story. And you're an inspiration, I think, especially to third culture kids who want to make it in the creative world.
Thank you. That really means a lot. Yeah. I think it's time to get that drink. What do you think?
Yes. Gin and tonics all round.
Oh, yeah.
And for my listeners out there, if this is something that you've really loved, please can you share it with your friends and family? If you can go to iTunes to rate and review us, that will help get me up the iTunes charts, and it will help people find Nick and his company 24 Frames and his show Off the Cuff. And thank you so much for listening. We really, really appreciate it. Thanks again, Nick. It's been amazing.
Thank you.
Hi, Confidants. I want to tell you about my Patreon page. I've joined Patreon in the hope of getting sponsorship for my Hong Kong Confidential podcast. Patreon is a great way for my listeners to get on board and sponsor me with monthly payments, and that goes towards my production costs and rewards for my members. If you're interested in checking out my Patreon page, please go to patreon.com and search up Jules Hannaford or Hong Kong Confidential. I would really appreciate you visiting my page. So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.
Growing up as a latchkey kid in a small town in Maine, I always assumed I was safe. After all, unless it makes national news, murder isn't something people talk about around here. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Murder, She Told is a true crime podcast featuring crime stories, unsolved murders and missing persons, and baffling cold cases from my home state of Maine, New England, and small towns across America. These are the crime stories your hometown doesn't want to talk about, the mysteries buried deep in the newspaper archives of local American history. These are the homicides you've probably never heard of before. Through detailed storytelling and connections with family, friends, and investigators closest to the case, Murder, She Told will hit home for any true crime fan, whether you're from Maine or from away. Visit murdershetold.com to suggest your hometown crime story, and subscribe now wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I'm Kristen Seavey, and this is Murder, She Told.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.